Gas prices are on the rise, and that's some bad news for people hoping to travel this summer.
And those prices aren't expected to get better anytime soon. GasBuddy.com head of petroleum analysis Patrick DeHaan is joining us this morning. Patrick, always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
I'm hoping that you're the bearer of good news this morning, but I'm sure where facts lie this morning is kind of where we've been seeing it, which is heading up.
Yeah, unfortunately, not a whole lot of good news, at least yet. Gas prices do continue to go up across much of the country. Charlotte, no exception. Average price is now $4.63 a gallon. Nationally, we have hit that $5 a gallon mark. And unfortunately, I think it will get worse before it gets better. And a lot of the reason for that, demand remains very strong. In fact, last week, even amidst the highest prices we've ever seen, Americans spiked demand to the highest level of 2022. So not a lot is likely to change here. The imbalance between supply and demand is going to continue to persist through much of the summer.
And when you say get worse, are we talking $5.50 a gallon, $6? Where do we stop? What's that threshold?
Well, it's certainly higher than where we are today. Charlotte, like I mentioned, at $4.63, it's possible that eventually prices could get to $5 a gallon. I'm worried about a potential super spike if we see a hurricane or refinery disruption. There's basically no margin for error right now in the system. That is, refineries are barely keeping up with demand as it is. So if there are unexpected issues, whether it's a hurricane or refinery issue, those could really cause us to see prices even rise more dramatically than where we are now.
Well, and Patrick, you put out kind of a newsletter. In the most recent one, you said we're one jolt away from heading higher. Is a hurricane or refinery offline? Is that what you're talking about in terms of a jolt to the system? And what else could do that?
Yeah, those are the exact examples of a jolt. Now, it could come from somewhere else as well. If there's some other refinery overseas, I mean, we're just running so close between supply and demand that any jolt, whether it be, some sort of economic recession, that could provide the kind of opposite effect and could cause prices to go down. But that jolt can come in many forms. Any interruption to supply or demand is what we're referring to.
We just had a story right before we came to you, Patrick, about President Biden scheduling a trip to Saudi Arabia. It's been reported mid-July. We don't know necessarily what's going to come out of these talks, but without getting in the weeds too much, could worldwide production, could anything else happening outside of the U.S. help with our gas prices?
Well, there's some things here and there. I mean, even talking to the Saudis probably won't do a whole lot. The problem really now is twofold. It's oil and oil supply. That's maybe where the Saudis can do a little bit, though I don't think Biden's visit to Saudi Arabia is going to really do anything positive. Maybe I'm being too pessimistic, but then the problem flows down the chain. Even if you have more oil, if there aren't more refineries able to refine that oil, we're still stuck with gasoline supply that's declining as demand remains strong.
Patrick, what do you think the best case scenario is? I know it's hard to have we don't have a crystal ball for this, but when could drivers start to see some relief? I think people would rejoice if we got back into the $3 range for a gallon of gas.
That's something that theoretically could happen later this year. It really depends on how, the balance between supply and demand evolves. If we do see an economic slowdown, that could cause demand to go down, and that could bring with it price relief. I think there is more upside risk between now and, say, the end of July. Then we could start to see some relief, so long as there are no major hurricanes in August. I wouldn't say we'd get back down to $3, but that's not an impossibility. But I do think the rest of the year, my bet would be we'd probably stay in the $4 range, and we could go higher again if we get one of those jolts.
I was in Georgia not too long ago with family. They were enjoying a relief from some gas taxes there. North Carolina, one of those states that has looked at that option. Do you see people spending more at the gas pump if state by state they sort of relax some of these gas taxes?
Well, it's probably the reason, at least part of the reason, why we haven't seen demand going down necessarily, is that you have states now, New York, Georgia, Connecticut, all offering a gas tax holiday. And keep in mind, there's still some discussion at the federal level that could happen. Now, that could exacerbate the problem by maybe leading to more road trips happening. So do we see the gas tax holiday boosting consumption? Yes. But the question is, by how much? Are people starting to make those trips that wouldn't otherwise, or are we seeing people go into those states to buy that cheaper gas? That's the question.
Yeah.
Well, and Patrick, you're very active on social media and Twitter and putting out updates and really analysis of the markets. What's kind of the one thing that day in, day out, you kind of have to just hit people over the head with, in terms of misconceptions about the oil and gas markets that really are some of the underlying forces of what we're seeing right now?
Well, I think a lot of this is rooted in economics. Anyone that has a background or has an understanding of economics can see where we are. And unfortunately, why we're a little bit pessimistic is because a lot of the challenges we're dealing with are longer term. And keep in mind, this is a global phenomenon. This is not something that was just created by U.S. policies. This is something that happened out of COVID. Americans changed their consumer behavior by not driving, and now we all have ramped back up. So, a lot of this, if you know economics, you'll be able to see this from the top. But I think that's where the frustration is. And of course, politicians on both sides of the aisle like to point fingers, and that doesn't really help either.
Well, Patrick, I'm waiting on your tweet that starts with hallelujah, gas prices are going down. I realize you may not be tweeting it this week, but I'm going to be hopeful every single day.
He's sitting on the edge of the seat.
Yeah, I'll be hopeful until that day happens. So, Patrick, thanks for your time and your analysis. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.